Hello, welcome to the July 2013 edition of CGov's The Parish Line. We cover the events, programs, and policies of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. On this month's program, we will look into the issue of coastal erosion and wetlands loss in southwest Louisiana, see how the parish evaluates its roads for repairs, and look at a new historical section of the CPPJ website. First, juvenile justice systems throughout the state have new regulations on how to operate. J.P. Booth tells us how the Calcasieu Parish OJJS Department helped create those guidelines.
For 2 years, the Calcasieu Parish Office of Juvenile Justice Services has been helping to formulate new state guidelines that would go into effect this summer. Dane Bolin with the Calcasieu Parish OJJS office tells us how it all got started.
You know, there's a lot of history, and it really goes back to 2003. There was actually legislation passed that said that juvenile detention centers, or we would study the fact that juvenile detention centers need to be licensed. Well, that was a piece of legislation that really never came through the process or went through the process because no one was assigned to do that. And it bounced around for a couple of years, and then finally in 2010, Act 1477 was passed, and it stated that all juvenile facilities would be licensed by July 1, 2013. Up to now, it's individual places. They used the Casey standards. Some of us decided to do that, but it was all voluntary. So you could go out there and really choose the model that you'd want. Imagine a daycare being open on every corner and no one supervising or coming in to make sure those daycares are following through with how they, house your kids, how they look after your children. So it's needed. It's been needed for quite a while, and now July 1, all facilities were licensed, and they all received their licensing certificate in the state. During the writing of the legislation, which we're involved in, one of the sticking points was who is going to inspect the facilities. One of the ideas was maybe all the juvenile administrators could get together and develop a team. Well, it's kind of like the fox watching the hen house on that one. So, long story short, it was decided the Department of Children and Family Services would be the evaluator or licensing inspector of all the facilities, which are 15 facilities in the state. They monitor daycares. Actually, it's ironic as we train the evaluators because juvenile detention center is very new to those guys. And so we had to train them to get ready to walk into these facilities. We learned quickly that all the evaluators, and most of them, had only licensed daycares in the past. So they were going from a daycare to secure juvenile facilities. So it took some time to get through that. But Department of Children and Family Services is now the lead entity as it comes to inspecting facilities. Calcasieu Parish received funding from the MacArthur Foundation, actually about $165,000, which funneled through Calcasieu Parish and was funneled out to all of the facilities in the state. We took different state detention guidelines who already had standards in place. We used some national standards that we could come up with. The Annie E. Casey Foundation had some excellent standards, which most of our standards are modeled after that. And what we had is that a group of administrators. This is really a unique set of standards because it was developed by people who actually do the work, which is always nice. So we got together. It was about a 2-year process. And when it was all said and done, we really have now some of the best practices across the country. What we did is we formed a team in Calcasieu Parish. We had the funding, so there's about 4 of us, and I'll mention their names because I think it's very important. Tony Celestine, who is also the president of the Louisiana Juvenile Detention Association, Jeff Vander at the Juvenile Office, and Kelly Taylor at the Juvenile Office. We were all part of this team, and we did not necessarily go around and inspect facilities. We brought them together. And we discussed the standards, and we had some debate on what was a good standard and what do we need to change on those standards. So you're talking about how long it should take a child to be admitted to a facility, what type of mental health screening or medical health screening should the child have when he's admitted to a facility. And then it goes down to things, how many square footage should be in a room, how high the ceiling should be. I mean, you name it, number of minutes in a day that they should receive education in our facilities. So it runs the gamut from, admitting a child to a child being released, medical care, dental care, you name it, it's really in those standards. It raises the bar very high for all facilities in the state. So yes, it raises the bar. It sets a standard we have no choice in meeting now. It's not an option like it used to be in the past. You must be licensed. You must maintain your license. which will be issued out yearly. So it raises the bar, and yes, it makes all of us better. Very proud of Calcasieu Parish. We had a lot of support from the police jury and the MacArthur Foundation, because if you're going to do these type of projects on this big a scale, you have to have funding, and that funding really helped us out. It trained everyone in the state, but Calcasieu Parish should be very honored that they received the grant and that they were chosen to lead the whole project.
For the Parish Line, I'm J.P. Booth.
Local juvenile justice departments throughout the state will be inspected and receive a new certificate annually. The Calcasieu Parish Housing Department is helping potential homeowners learn the finer points of getting their first home. Molly Morgan was at their Home Ownership Expo last month.
Home ownership is celebrated during the month of June, and Calcasieu Parish held their expo on Saturday, June 15th. Housing Coordinator Amanda Hartley tells us more.
In Calcasieu Parish, we do try to hold an expo for the general public so they can come out and maybe learn some things that they didn't know about, and just to understand the myths and what's real about the home buying process.
Vendors were on hand to answer questions concerning the process of buying a home.
We had many vendors out. We had a lot of different banks. We had realtors out. We had nonprofit organizations as well. We had the breakout sessions, and what they were given to the general public was step-by-step home buying process. What you need to have ready even before you speak with the lender. Housing counselors were there as well, because if you already know that your credit may need some work, whether it's credit restoration, credit building, we had those credit counselors there so you can meet with them and they could kind of lead you in the direction you need to go into. The bankers would let you know the steps too of buying, the home buying process, from start to finish, and what to exactly look forward to, and the steps of the process. And with each step they went into detail what you should expect. A lot of the realtors and the bankers are trying to get the general public familiar with some of the terminology that they use on a day-to-day basis, so when they go out there and speak with a lender or a realtor, they're aware of what's being said to them, and they're more prepared to ask questions. So it was a lot of informative information about the process. We also had Entergy out there, which went over energy efficiency, because that's important not only to homeowners but renters as well. We had OEP come out to talk about that, and hurricane preparedness as well. So it's a lot of good information that was given out.
With the expo held annually, there will be lots of room for new ideas.
We're going to try to hold or host an annual Homeownership Expo every year. Right now we're in constant communication with those vendors, and we want to look at new ideas, maybe different times, what would work better with the general public.
For the Parish Line, I'm Molly Morgan.
To find out more about next year's Expo, or for information on any of the presentations at this year's event, contact Amanda Hartley at 721-4030. Recent rains may have you wondering about an increase in the mosquito population in the area. Here's Margaret Higgins with the latest.
The midpoint of summer has arrived, and mosquito populations can be abundant. Calcasieu Parish Mosquito Control Director Scott Willis gives us an update.
Overall, mosquito populations are throughout the whole state and all the different parishes that have mosquito control. Our populations are lower than normal, and also West Nile virus activity this year is lower throughout Louisiana and throughout the whole country. And so it kind of cycles sometimes. Different viruses will cycle as far as their activity, and it just dropped off. And it's not unusual to have a year that's real active like last year and then turn around and have another year and it's real quiet.
Even though the mosquito count is down, Willis warns us about the West Nile virus and shares tips that should be practiced around your home.
Even though they are low, we are entering in August and September are the main times that human cases of West Nile virus start to show up. It's still a concern at that time of the year with people that are going out in the evenings, and you still need to wear repellents and things. It is important for people to empty containers and things around their home. It lessens the chance of mosquitoes breeding around the home, and it helps us out and helps the people out too. So we always encourage, gets hot and you get afternoon showers and stuff to keep containers and things empty.
To help educate our youth about mosquitoes, Calcasieu Parish Mosquito Control recently celebrated National Mosquito Awareness Week.
We had a poster contest that we set up for some elementary grades at the library, and we went over there and gave awards out and picked posters for first place and gave them different goodies and awards for, winning the poster contest. This was the first time that we had a poster contest for Mosquito Awareness Week, and we'll probably expand it a little bit next year and include some more libraries, and hopefully it'll grow and get the news out a little bit more.
For more information or to report a problem with mosquitoes, call 721-3780. For the Parish Line, I'm Margaret Higgins.
Mosquito Control reminds residents again we are entering the peak time of year for West Nile, and to use repellents when going outdoors during evening hours or entering an area where mosquito populations are high. This year, about $20 million will be spent by the parish on roads in Calcasieu. CGov's Jessica Williamson rode along to witness the process for inspecting these hundreds of miles of roads.
This was overlaid in 2001.
The parish is required by the state of Louisiana to provide a 3-year capital improvement plan consisting of a list of roads that will receive improvements over the next 3 years. The police jury adopted a plan that tells the parish engineering department how to prioritize road projects based upon field surveys and condition ratings. That's where engineering specialist Shawn fits in.
Yeah. Well, Shawn in our office, he goes out and he'll do a windshield survey of all of the roads in the parish. He'll do one half of the parish 1 year, and he'll do the other half of the parish the following year. So every other year, each road is inspected and it is rated based on its condition. And based on that rating, we're able to determine what the condition of the road pavement is.
Different road conditions are looked at to determine a rating. Certain types of cracks, along with factors dealing with how often a road is used, factor into the rating each road gets.
We start out at a perfect road, it's 100. That'd be newly paved, brand new road. Our failure, and that's 0 to 100, and our failure is generally around the 79 to 80 mark. That's when we actually repave them. And this road right here is at an 84 right now. So within the next couple of years, I think this one's on next year's project actually. Really, there's 4, 5 probably that we see most often. The transverse and longitudinal cracking, the shrinkage, the alligator, and then the potholes that occur from alligator cracking.
When building a new road, the parish engineering department has determined that it is usually more cost-effective to build asphalt roads and overlay them periodically, as opposed to building more expensive concrete roads.
We have some concrete streets. Those are usually found in urban areas where you have higher volumes. In the rural areas, it's more cost-effective for us as a parish to utilize asphalt. Long term, there is less maintenance associated with concrete. There may be, several years out before you'd have to do any maintenance, although asphalt will require some interim maintenance. But its initial cost, things that are like those factors that we have to consider, whether we go concrete or asphalt.
Asphalt roads tend to last about 13 to 15 years before they need to be resurfaced. In the interim, the parish public works department maintains the roads. However, the overlay projects are bid to private construction firms.
The engineering department basically builds it and public works will maintain it. But there's limits on what they can do as far as maintenance because the state has determined that public works projects cannot exceed $150,000 and be done by a public entity, that at that point we need to go out and advertise for bids, which really works out well because we have some great contractors in the area that are capable of doing this work and do a great job at it. So that's one of the reasons we don't do this in-house, and it would be massive with all the equipment and the employees it would take to run a project of that size. So Public Works serves a great function in that they do provide intermediate maintenance, such as patching, maintaining the shoulders, maintaining our roadside drainage and ditches and things of that sort, mowing. So there are a number of maintenance functions that they provide, in the interim between, road resurfacing of our roadways.
The parish maintains over 1,200 miles of roads and 155 bridges. The road overlay program is funded by a property tax that was recently renewed for 10 years.
I think of roads, Public Works, those functions are kind of the bread and butter to me of the parish. These are things that people see, they experience every day, and they are impacted by it. And it's our job here to provide the best quality roads that are safe and to try and provide convenience to the public. When we construct new roads and new connections to move people and goods in and around the parish.
For the Parish Line, I'm Jessica Williamson.
Bridges are inspected separately at a minimum of once every 2 years. CGov recently had a chance to see firsthand some of the major coastal wetlands protection projects underway in southwest Louisiana. Jesse Freeman was along for the tour.
The alarming loss of Louisiana's coastline has spawned many projects to prevent further erosion. Laurie Cormier, Coastal Zone Manager for Calcasieu Parish Planning and Development, explains.
It was established by the Master Plan for Coastal Louisiana in 2012 to go ahead and do some projects that are going to be beneficial to Calcasieu Parish in southwest Louisiana. And what they focused on was building land and reducing flooding. And the way they did that, our vision for southwest Louisiana is to restore the Cheniere ridges, to limit saltwater intrusion, and have Gulf shoreline protection. And the reason that's so important is because we need a multiple line of defense from Cameron Parish to Calcasieu Parish to Vermilion Parish.
This multiple line of defense includes projects like marsh creation, shoreline protection, barrier island restoration, and channel realignment, all of which protect Louisiana from coastal erosion and land loss.
All these projects have to be implemented in order to reach that level of protection. And that's what the Coastal Master Plan for Louisiana calls for.
Without these interventions, the problem will only get worse. Philip Trosclair, Wildlife Biologist Supervisor with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, has more.
You've got to have programs to protect the land that man has altered. There's no more letting Mother Nature just do what it can. It's too far gone. So we have to work together, not just as local parish, but also as large groups. There's no line of separation here when it's dealing with coastal wetland loss and so forth. There's two sides of it. You have the interior land loss and you have the coastal erosion, and it's all colliding together. So we can do projects that can slow some of the erosion down, but we have to maintain the land inside.
The protection of the coastlands is a work in progress and is being developed based on research and trial and error.
We put all these projects out and it's all new science, so we're trying to design new engineering and design to cover these new projects, but we don't always know if they're going to sustain in terms of storms.
Many of these projects have exhibited hopeful success in erosion prevention. For the Parish Line, I'm Jesse Freeman.
You are watching The Parish Line, a production of CGov, the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel. CGov has launched a new Parish Historical Archive on the Police Jury's website, cppj.net. The first entry on the archive is a series of videos with former police jurors recalling the high points of their time on the jury. Fred Godwin, Luvertha August, Charles Liggio, Elsie Guillory, and Dr. Charles Mackey all sat down in front of the CGov cameras recently and discussed the big issues they faced, relived some controversies, and told some good stories. Fred Godwin served on the police jury in the 1970s and was instrumental in leading a reform movement on day-to-day parish operations. It changed the structure from the ward system to the unit system, centralizing operations and removing jurors from making daily decisions. That reform also created the office of parish administrator.
That's when we effectively created, there's a resolution on record here somewhere, that we had a resolution that created the office of parish administrator. It's not even statutory. It's based on the police jury's resolution to structure it that way. And that came out of that was all done in the Organization Rules Committee. And obviously we had a fine guy to take that position. Late Rodney Vincent had been parish engineer for years, and I remember sitting at in the committee meeting, and Rodney was sitting right next to me. And when we were sitting there wording the resolution, we came to the part that all employees, he would have the authority of hiring and firing over all employees, and that you know, we couldn't fire anybody, and that was what we were trying to do. And he told me later, he said he was just stunned when that happened, when we did that, right there in the meeting. He told me later, he said, you know, he said, I thought we were going to kind of, he showed me, we were going to kind of move here, you know, move a little bit here, and he said, you went way over here. So it was a surprise to him.
Dr. Charles Mackey served from 1985 until 2011. One of the biggest changes in his tenure was passing taxes that provided for hard surfacing of 90% of all parish roads, a decision that led to tremendous growth in unincorporated Calcasieu.
We were starting to get into really working on the gravel roads in the parish. I think now we have more hard surface roads in the parish than any parish in the state of Louisiana. We did that by telling the people what we wanted to do, and they gave us permission to do it. And we had some kind of bond issue. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was very clever or a very smart way of doing things. And we actually had some people that were going to be the financiers of this program. They came and explained everything to us. Some of it was a little bit over my head, but they really seemed to be outstanding people, and it was one of those things where my gut feeling was that we were doing the right thing, and I think that turned the police jury around.
We asked the jurors we interviewed if they had any amusing stories from their time serving the parish. Luvertha August told us of the hazards of sitting between current police juror Francis Andropont and the late Algie Bro during meetings.
But I happened to look in the mirror and I saw these bruises. I had more on the left side than I had on the right side. And I thought, Lord, do I have a blood disorder? I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was scared to go to the doctor. So the next time we had police jury meeting, I was still thinking, this was very fresh on my mind. And it was an issue that had come up that it was a rather lively issue. And Algie was doing like this to me, and Francis was doing like this to me, and I thought, that's where those bruises are coming from. So what I would do when something would, and they were both alpha males, you know, and if they wanted to talk to me, I was to listen to just one or the other, and if I didn't, I was going to get ribbed. So when something lively would come up and the murmuring would start here and the murmuring would start there, I'd push my seat all the way to the backdrop or the back wall, and I'd just say, talk amongst yourselves, gentlemen, leave me out of it.
We also have extensive comments from former jurors Elsie Guillory and Charles Liggio. We'll be adding more former jurors to the historical archive periodically. Long term, our plans are to add documents, photos, and other videos to make the archive an online resource for the history of the police jury and the parish. That's it for the Parish Line this month. Thanks for being with us. More details on all of these stories are available on our website, cppj.net.